In Warhammer 40k, chaos feels like the immovable object, eternal, inevitable, a tide of madness and corruption that no one can resist forever. The Ruinous Powers stretch across the galaxy, whispering in every shadow, feasting on every emotion, turning entire civilizations into playthings. They don't just win battles, they twist reality itself to make sure they win the war. From the outside, chaos seems invincible, the ultimate endgame of all things. But here's the unsettling twist. What if there's one species that the Chaos Gods actually fear? Not the mighty Eldar who fell long ago, not the endless Orks whose laughter drowns out the warp, not even the galaxy-devouring Tyranids. No, the true terror of chaos may just be humanity, the most fragile, confused, and self-destructive species in the galaxy. The same race that feeds chaos with its emotions also creates its greatest rival. The Orks don't care about chaos. The Eldar are already doomed to Slaanesh, and the Tau barely even register in the warp. But humanity threatens the Chaos Gods. Because where others feed the warp and fall into its grasp, humans can fight back, shape it, even challenge it. And that's the question at the heart of this. Are the Chaos Gods actually afraid of us? When it comes to the warp, humanity isn't just a drop in the ocean. We're a tidal wave. Every single person, from the richest High Lord of Terror to the lowest hive ganger, is a psychic conduit, whether they know it or not. Fear, love, faith, hate, despair. Every flicker of emotion bleeds into the warp. Now multiply that by a species numbering in the untold trillions, spread across 1,000,000 worlds. Humanity isn't just feeding chaos, we're flooding it. The warp itself shifts because of us. That's where things get interesting. Most other species are one note in the warp. Orks project violence, and that's about it. Eldar are pleasure, excess, obsession. Hence why Slaanesh had them in the bag the moment they slipped. The Tau barely make a dent at all. But humans, we're messy, contradictory, and extreme. We feel everything, and in doing so, we empower all four Chaos Gods at once. But here's the kicker. That versatility makes us uniquely dangerous, because if we can fuel them, then we can also deny them, or worse, create something new that rivals them. And that's not just theorycraft. The Emperor is Exhibit A. He wasn't born from nowhere. He was allegedly shaped by the psychic energy of thousands of human shamans channeling their souls into one being. That's why he terrifies the Ruinous Powers. Humanity proved once already that we can make a god strong enough to challenge them. And every single day, trillions of prayers keep his presence alive, even in death. Chaos can feed on us all they want, but deep down, they know they're not the only ones who can play God. So when we talk about humanity's warp presence, it's not just that we're loud, it's that we're versatile, volatile, and powerful enough to change the game. The other races feed the Empyrean in predictable ways. Humanity are the only ones who might actually write the next chapter of the warp's history. If you want proof that humanity can stand toe-to-toe with the Ruinous Powers, you don't have to look any further than the Emperor. He isn't just some powerful psyker who lucked his way into leading an empire. He's living proof that humanity can shape the warp into something that rivals the gods themselves. Born from the sacrifice of countless ancient shamans, he's basically the ultimate human psychic gestalt. In other words, he's the closest thing to a chaos god built by design, except his purpose was to protect humanity instead of exploit it. During the Great Crusade, he marched across the stars with a clarity and power that even the chaos gods couldn't ignore. Their influence twisted primarchs, corrupted worlds, and even shattered entire legions. But against the Emperor himself, they could never win outright. And even when Horus, their chosen champion, was at the peak of his power, the Emperor still beat him. The cost was horrific, being bound to the Golden Throne, unable to speak or act directly. But the point remains, the Chaos Gods tried their hardest to tear him down, and he stopped them cold. There's also that darker angle people forget. During the heresy, the Ruinous Powers weren't just trying to kill him. They were trying to reshape him into one of their own, a so-called fifth god of chaos, sometimes called the Dark King. Think about what that means. They saw his potential, feared it, and tried to co-opt it. But in the end, the Emperor refused to play their game. His victory may have been Pyrrhic, but it was still a victory. He stopped the heresy, rejected their trap, and prevented the birth of a god that could have rewritten the great game entirely. And here's where it gets even more unsettling for Chaos. He's still there. The Emperor hasn't faded. Quite the opposite. Every prayer, every act of worship, every whispered plea in the dark strengthens him day after day. In a galaxy where faith literally shapes reality, he might not just be a rival. He might be on his way to becoming a true counterforce to chaos. The Chaos Gods wanted a new player for their game. Instead, humanity might have birthed their referee. If there's one thing that makes humanity uniquely terrifying to chaos, it isn't just psychic power or sheer numbers, it's faith. The Imperial Creed, for all its fanaticism, is more than just dogma. It's a reality-shaping force. When a guardsman shouts, "For the Emperor," before charging into certain death, that belief doesn't just steal his nerves, it bleeds into the warp itself. When a sister of battle raises her weapon and calls on him, things happen that flat out shouldn't. Bolters fire hotter, wounds close when they shouldn't, and demons burn when there's nothing physical touching them. These aren't parlor tricks, they're miracles, and they terrify the Ruinous Powers because they don't come from them. Here's where it gets stranger. In the Pariah Nexus, a zone where psychic powers collapse and the warp is eerily quiet, normal humans lose their minds and psychers are crippled. But faith still works. Sisters of battle can still call down miracles. Priests can still ignite the flames of belief. That's huge, because it suggests faith doesn't function like regular psychic power. It's not just a signal broadcast into the warp, it's something else. Now, nobody in universe has a clean explanation for this, but here's one way to look at it. Faith works like a human gestalt field. Normally, humans are a mess in the warp, a billion conflicting fears, hates, loves, and selfish desires all churning together. That's what feeds the Chaos Gods. But faith is different. Faith lines people up, focuses their intent, and points it in one direction: the Emperor. Thousands, millions, billions of souls singing the same note. And when that resonance builds, it creates something stable, something unified. It's a lot like what Orks do with their belief. Red paint makes things go faster, not because of physics, but because all Orks believe it does. The difference is, Orks make guns work. Humans make miracles happen. You could even compare it to the Christian idea of the Holy Spirit, the belief that faith connects you to God and also binds you to others who share it. In the same way, faith in the Emperor doesn't just protect individuals, it stitches them together into something greater, something that resists the corruption of chaos by its very nature. And while it's true, we don't have hard proof of exactly how it works, the fact remains, faith seems to do what even the most powerful psyker can't. It resists chaos, burns it away, and rewrites the rules of the warp. Other races bump into chaos all the time, but none of them actually threaten it in the way humanity does. Take the Orks, for example. They've basically got their own private warp bubble, powered by their collective stupidity/genius. Their gods, Gork and Mork, are too busy punching each other and laughing about it to bother with the Four. Chaos doesn't corrupt Orks, because their gods are a representation of their collective will. But the thing is, Orks aren't rivals to Chaos. They're just parallel nonsense. They don't fight the great game. They don't even acknowledge it. They're like the noisy neighbor who doesn't care if you burn your house down because theirs is already on fire, and that's how they like it. Then you've got the Eldar, poor bastards. Their pantheon got eaten alive by Slaanesh, and the survivors are either shattered fragments or clinging on by the skin of their divine teeth. Inead, the big maybe god of the dead, is hyper-focused on fighting Slaanesh and doesn't have the power or the scope to take on all of chaos. The Drukhari, they're not rivals, they're hostages. Their whole way of life is basically a protection racket to avoid getting their souls gobbled up. The Eldar don't fight chaos, they just endure it. That's not the same thing at all. Now the Tau, bless their little blue hooves, their psychic presence is so faint it barely registers. The greater good echoes in the warp like a sad kazoo. And a lot of that noise probably comes from human converts projecting their faith onto it. They're not a threat to chaos, they're background static. And then there's the Tyranids, who do mess with chaos in an interesting way, since their shadow in the warp chokes off psychic energy. But that's not a war, it's just ecosystem mechanics. Like sharks clearing out seals before another predator can get a bite. They starve the gods, sure, but they're not creating anything new. They're not rewriting the rules. And that's the key difference. Only humanity has done something no one else managed. They birthed the Emperor. They didn't just sidestep chaos, ignore it, or temporarily weaken it. They created a rival player in the great game itself. Humanity doesn't just survive chaos, it produces the one being who could actually end it. That's a level of threat the other factions can't even dream of reaching. Here's where things get scary. Humanity isn't done evolving. Psykers are showing up more and more with each generation, which means the species as a whole is getting dragged deeper into the warp, whether it wants to or not. For the Empyrean, this is both a blessing and a nightmare. On the one hand, it's proof that humanity is naturally psychic in a way most races aren't. On the other, it means more people blowing up into demon hosts on their 16th birthday. But taken as a whole, it's pointing to something bigger. Humanity might be slowly turning itself into a psychic juggernaut. Now imagine if all that raw, unstable power actually got organized. That's where things like the Thorian heresy or the Star Child theories come in. The idea that the Emperor could reincarnate or be reborn through the faith of his people. Not as a corpse god stuck on a chair, but as a unified psychic force. That wouldn't just be another warp entity. It could be something strong enough to rival the entire Chaos Pantheon or even rewrite the rules of the warp itself. If Chaos is the great game, then humanity's endgame might be flipping the board over entirely. And that's why Chaos both needs and fears humanity. The gods feed off human emotion, fear, hatred, despair, love, devotion. But the same species that sustains them also has the unique ability to burn them out through faith and unity. Humanity's volatility is its curse, but it's also the only thing that gives it this kind of potential. If the Emperor was proof of concept, then the next step could be even more terrifying. a species that doesn't just play in the warp, but masters it. That's either the apocalypse or the only chance anyone has of ending chaos for good. At the end of the day, the truth is simple. Chaos feasts on humanity, but chaos also fears humanity. No other species gives them as much strength, and no other species holds the same potential to wipe them out. The Emperor proved that a single human, born of belief, will, and psychic mastery, can stand toe-to-toe with gods. The Imperial Creed proves that simple, unshakable faith can burn corruption away like it was never there. Humanity is a paradox, and paradoxes are dangerous. The Orks will still be brawling long after the stars die, but they'll never care about chaos. The Eldar are doomed to fade, tied forever to Slaanesh. The Tau will barely register as a footnote in the warp. The Tyranids will eat until they starve. But humanity is the one species with the terrifying potential to end the Chaos Gods for good. And maybe that's exactly why the Ruinous Powers are afraid. If you enjoyed this dive into the darker corners of Warhammer lore, make sure to like the video, drop a comment, and subscribe for more. And here's the big question I want to hear from you. Do you think humanity will ever actually unmake chaos? Or is the Imperium too broken to ever reach that kind of unity again? Let me know what you think. I'll be reading your takes.